Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today is time to restyle this Prostrata Juniper grafted Kishu.
Well, hey there everybody, my name is Hank Fawcett, and for 42 years I worked at the fabulous Playboy Mansion. Yes, the home of Hugh Hefner. Anyway, it was a very nice gig. I really enjoyed it. I left the mansion after 42 years as general manager. But during that time, well, we did a lot of parties. And one of the things that happened during those parties is that we had a backyard that was 80 by 100. And we used to put tents on it all the time for the parties. So after a period of time, I convinced the executives to replace the grass with AstroTurf. So in order to do that, I needed to raise up the back end of the lawn by about 2 feet. And this particular tree was one of the things that I had to dig out. And so I kept it. And that was probably 20 years ago when we dug it out and replaced the whole backyard with AstroTurf. So for 20 some odd years I kept it. This particular tree is a air layer from the major tree, which hopefully in a couple of years you will also see, because, well, the fabulous Mauro Stemberger will be styling that one too. So this one's styled. I actually took 2 air layers. Both of them are here. The mother tree is here. And as you can see, I grafted the regular Juniper, Prostrata Juniper, with Kishu. The Kishu came out very nicely, I do believe. And what makes me proud of this is a number of things, is that Mauro styled it, that I could actually dig it out from the Playboy Mansion, and that I did all of the grafting on this tree by myself. So I'm very, very pleased with it. I'm more than very, very pleased. I'm ecstatic about it. He is quite a master, isn't he?
This tree was a Prostrata Juniper that you can see on this original foliage still present on part of the tree. Was grafted 3 years ago with Kishu, that is a much finer and better variety of juniper, especially for create and refine nice pads. Now, as you can see, the Kishu took over. Most of the Prostrata was cut back, and now what I'm gonna do, I will remove completely the original foliage, transform some of the old branches in gin, and then I will give the first wiring and styling to the tree to reset the old shape. Basically, when we sign graft this tree, the tree had already a nice shape, but with very ugly foliage. So basically we changed the dress of the tree, putting a better variety of juniper, and now I can just re-establish the old shape, nice bunching, elegant shape, but with all the new foliage. So what I'm gonna do, as I said, remove the original foliage, gin some branches, and then start wiring and positioning the new foliage. Here you can see the difference between the original foliage and the new foliage. Pretty simple, the color, and obviously how dense and compact is the branch. So we always go inside and remove the original foliage, so we have only nice foliage ready for styling. I decided to sacrifice this branch that is too big and too low to create a nice and elegant tree. Originally, actually, this branch was a kind of a second tree, but now we have this part here that grew a lot, very nice and strong. So I prefer to simplify a little bit the design of the tree and add more deadwood to the design by removing this branch and ginning it. It will be a nice piece of deadwood. It's a little bit sad after, you know, all the effort to graft, to remove a part like this, but at the end, if it become a part of the aesthetic of the tree, as a nice gin, it will be much better for the final result. Just finished doing the gin and putting some thick wire, structural wire on this branch that I previously protect with a little bit of raffia. So using the strength of the wire and the twist, I can start moving all these branch forward to create the nice descending line towards the front. I just wire the primary and the secondary branches, and I apply strength, and so now this branch is nicely down in position, and I can restart with the finer wire and wire everything to create now a nice pad, and I have a nice branch in this negative space to create a depth. So in the space that I create between the lower profile of this branch, my sashieda, and the back branch, they create a negative space. I create the background and I can focus on the gin. So we can act as this branch grew and kill the lower branch, and so they become a nice focal point for the future aesthetic of the tree. Now I just finished wiring also the little branches. So I start from this external part, creating the base of my future pads, positioning the green and cleaning a little bit the underneath. I want to remove branches that grows under the other one, because they don't perform any good photosynthesis, and they keep basically sucking energy from the branch. If there is any other branch I want to wire to be able to position, I do it. My strategy in this type of work is, as you see, wire the structure, position and open the main branch, wire the fine branches, and now start creating the line of the pads, positioning the leader branches. The precision in this part of the job is not really necessary, because we are still talking about pads in a little bit of a structural way. So creating the different layers, okay? For now I leave this extension, and then when all the pad will be set, I will eventually, according to the amount of good foliage that I have inside, I can decide eventually to short these lines, so I can already move the energy from the outside to the inner part of the pads. Sometimes if we have only long lines and we are doing a lot of structural work, I tend to leave as many of these elongation possible, so they will help the tree to recover. In this case, you know, the structural work is not very stressful for the tree. It's most of all, apart this branch here, but all the rest will be pushing down and positioning. I can think about shorting these lines to already move the energy in the inner part of the pad. So you see, I work my way from the lower part up, stepping and creating pad lines. I already have a good foliage inside. So as I said, I want to short a little bit some of the elongation to already work for the maturity of the pad. Here I want push a little bit more this section forward to step much better the pad. Okay. It's always good to have a good visual connection between the different pads, a good rhythm. This branch we can move the back. Really move this side. Continue. Always keep some of the inner branches for volume, but obviously use most of them, especially on this initial work, use most of them for structure. So you see, following down the movement of the branch and creating a nice stepping, okay? And for this first work, as you can see, I tend to create paths that are pretty geometrical and flat because I want to still grow out some of these to have good maturing of the inner foliage, and then only on the next step I will start lifting some of the elongation at the end, creating a little bit more of a loop look for those parts. But for now, everything goes pretty much flat and very geometrical. Okay, so now more or less the first pad is done and I can work to the back. So now the first branch is done. I took care of the back branch, cleaning and positioning the green, framing this area, creating a nice background, also keeping some foliage here to create a nice feeling in this space. And now I will start taking care of the counterbalance branch. I have a lot of green down here, but I don't want to create too much of a lower pads to really compete with the directionality and the power of this first branch. So I prefer to gin some of these end parts. So ginning, I can create a nice long gin, creating a distraction from the straight line of the trunk. Luckily, originally I did some shari, and now I have a nice live line starting right and twisting in the front here, but still I'm happy to create this gin and creating just pads in this level to frame this section of the trunk. finished taking care of all this area and part of the back, creating nice spots to really build the three-dimensionality of the tree and framing all the nice stepping up from the transition between the trunk, the structure, and the pads. You can see always moving the pads back, down, forward, back, forward, and create a nice rhythm. Push down a little bit this branch in this position. This branch will grow and create a nice pad on top of the primary branch. And now we're gonna move here. We have the nice whips in the top. This area where we still have a little bit of confusion, some old branches, one that was grafted that is in an uncomfortable position. So basically what I would like to do is basically gin this section and then use the long whips that come from an inner spot to go down and frame this new area of gin that I will create to have one focal point, two, and then three focal point here, framing all the nice deadwood, giving maturity, giving ancient look to the tree with the nice branches. So let's remove this extra green here. When we graft, it's always good to graft a lot of positions so we can choose then what to use and what to not use the moment we're gonna restyle the tree. So this area will be a nice spot with nice character, and then with the length of these branches I can go down and frame this area, plus with these other branches come up with the line, the right line of the triangularity. So now that I just finished taking care of this part, new part of that wood that really match with the other one that the tree have, donating this nice ancient look. Now I can wire these whips and then position them to finish up the apex. It's nice to notice when I do the gin, I try to have always different length. I don't want to create repetition in the line because they can look unnatural. So I like always to have different length and always to have a harmony between the different part of the deadwood, so they can really match and fit into the overall design.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Now that all the structure is wired, first operation will be pushing down and position them. And then I will take the time to wire all the other little branches and finish up my styling. It's always important to go down and around, creating movement with this structure. And so when they will set in position, they're gonna have a nice and good movement. You want to build a nice compact apex in this position. These two long branches will be my top, and now I can proceed and wire and create the nice layers and a nice pad to finish up the apex of the tree. As always happen, most of the energy is on the top. That's why we get this very long whip in the apical part, much stronger than most of the foliage in the lower part of the tree. So now when I'm setting the position of the different pad, I will also push this back, so I will send the energy in the lower branches, creating there more maturity, because I consider always the top the strongest part, and so the part that will develop faster in my tree. So I need always to send in the lower branches down energy by keeping control the apical part.
It sound right, boys. Sound right, boys. It sound right, boy.
And here we are with a nice bungeon style Kishu Juniper after the change of dress. I think I was able to really highlight all the detail that this tree have, even if the trunk is pretty straight, but with a lot of interaction between deadwood, movement of the branches, movement of genes, movement of pads and structure. Now the tree can go back in the branches, work more to some definition, some more length in other areas, maintain especially the apical part that, as I said, is stronger, and in a year we can do some more refinement and get this tree to the next step. Thank you so much for watching this video. See you at the next.